Hey, so we're here at Gould's Big Pond, next to Whitburn, for reference, and we're going to be doing open water swimming here today. So what open water swimming is your usual fitness swimming techniques, just translated into an open body of water, which is outdoors. It could be a running lake, pond, river, even the ocean, depending on what you're into and what your goals are. Open water swim is one of the primary activities in a triathlon, which is something that enticed me, and which is why it's something that I'm incredibly interested in right now. So how it differentiates from being in a pool is there's a lot of other variables. So these variables can include things like the moving water, the current itself, and one of the main differences is there is no line at the bottom of a lake or a river or a pool to keep you in a straight line. So there's certain objectives that you need to achieve in the water to make sure you're going straight, you're not getting carried out into the middle of the body of water, and so that you can keep going in a straight line. And another thing about open water swimming that's going to kind of pose some issues is the weather. And right here today it's 13 degrees right now. There's no wind whatsoever, right? There's a lot of flies, as you can see, which is frustrating right now. But other useful things to know about the open water is what body of water you're swimming in. You don't want to go swimming in a very dirty pond and end up with bacteria rolling downstream from anything really. Like, could be dead carcasses, could just be pollution, something like that. I choose Gould's Big Pond because our cabin is here and it's incredibly clean. There's only about 15 cabins that are even on the pond, and it flows really nicely, and there's no real undercurrent at all. It's just a body of water, and it's pretty easy to sight, and it's kind of fun to sight here because there's different alcoves, and you can use those as your points to look at and get 200 meters, reevaluate, and kind of keep pushing. So it's pretty important to have some specialized equipment for open water swimming. Some of it's going to look the same as if you're in a pool, but personally I like comfort, and having these accessories and pieces of equipment is going to be helpful. So of course it's pretty simple what this is. This is TYR swim cap. This one is the one I use in the pool, and some goggles. Now these are mirrored and polarized. Days like today, it doesn't really matter. It's pretty foggy, but if you're out here on a sunny day, you're gonna want to make sure you have those, just so your eyes aren't getting the albedo off the water and you're not getting blinded every time you're sighting. Another piece of equipment. These are Neoprene Booties. These have grip on the bottom, so you can actually grip the rocks when they're slippery. I don't have that issue at this pond, but at Healy's pond sometimes you'll have that issue and you'll slip on top of the rocks. But these will keep your feet warm, and there's one less thing to have to worry about. And we also have neoprene gloves. So the neoprene gloves, they have grip as well, but what these are really good for is, I find, the circulation in your hands, because you're not flexing your hand a whole lot when you're swimming. It's more just going in and pulling water. These will keep your hands nice and warm, especially in the early and late months of this open water swimming season. These are neoprene as well. They're made of pretty much the same thing as the wetsuit, but they're identical to the booties. And these are really helpful as well too for if you're in any situation in open water in the ocean. If you're ever open water swimming in the ocean, really, I always wear these, and I'll have the boots on 99% of the time in the ocean as well. In the pond, it's not really necessary all the time. I'm not sure if I'll use them today or not. So another piece of equipment, and one that I actually got for this season, is the Neoprene Headband. Now it's not a whole lot. It costs probably more than it should, but it goes over your ears and it kind of stops the cold water from rushing into your ears, and it's just really uncomfortable. It can lead to headaches and stuff like that. And if you can have something to block the cold water from entering your ears, you're going to be that much more comfortable, which means you're going to be able to be that much more proficient when you end up in the water. And another one of the perhaps the most important piece of equipment here today is a wetsuit. Now this is inside out right now because I store mine for the first 24 hours. I'll store it the right side in to get the outside dry, then I'll store it inside out and hang it. But this is a specialized piece of equipment. It's from Zone 3. They aren't the most cheap pieces of equipment, but I tell you, if you take care of it, it'll last you a really long time. So this particular wetsuit is built for triathlon swimming, so it's not going to be your warmest wetsuit, especially this time of the season. The level of thickness of neoprene is actually really low up top, so it can try to maintain your buoyancy. There's flies everywhere and it's really driving me nuts. And but if you look into the legs, when you flip this over, you can almost tell by how it flops that the legs are very buoyant. And what purpose that serves is to keep your legs higher in the water and provide you with a more streamlined position. Because the more streamlined and hydrodynamic you can be in the water, the faster you will ultimately be in your swim. But yeah, this is the wetsuit. Another key thing to think about with the wetsuit is sizing. So the sizing charts aren't really helpful because people are built in different shapes and sizes. So for myself, I have a really wide shoulder base, so I need to size up 2 sizes to get the right shoulder base, and then I end up having a little bit extra room in the belly. And when you have that extra room, water tends to pool there, so it's you kind of got to pick the equal medium. I guess opportunity cost is the right phrase for that. And then there's just some other small things like this here. This is a thermal swim cap by TYR as well. It's very visible, and sometimes I'll wear that over the other cap if it's really cold. And the most important piece of equipment, even over the wetsuit, if you're swimming in the open water, and now I'd advise you almost always go by yourself unless you're incredibly proficient. However, once you develop proficiency, using tools like this Inflatable Boy is going to be something like having a buddy there with you. So what this does, you blow up this, fold it, and it'll blow. I'll show you in a minute. And it'll drag along behind you by having on your waist, and you can put almost all your weight on top of this and you'll just float there. So if you need a little rest, if you're doing a workout or you're doing pacing, you can just have a little rest, head back out in a couple of minutes when you're ready to go again. And you can actually put all your clothes in here, so you don't need to worry about anyone jacking your stuff while you're in the water. So one thing about wetsuits, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, is they require some care. And if you don't care for them, they'll dry out, they'll get cracks. And if you have cracks and they dry out like that, you're gonna have some problems because it's no longer gonna be an efficient piece of equipment in the water. So you really gotta take care of these. Now, if you do get holes, so sometimes a fingernail can just cut through this pretty easily actually. And if you get a hole, there's cement repair kit you can get, and it works pretty good. You'll have to keep applying it, but essentially what you do is you sand the area, just to make it sand the area that has the nick. You take the cement, it's kind of like a nail polish brush, and you rub it on that, and then you'll leave it for 24 to 48 hours, and then you'll have a repaired wetsuit. Now, another thing that I didn't mention earlier, when you're sizing, you can actually cut the neoprene. So you only want to cut the red part, like that's what this is kind of extra suit. So some people like this shorter, some people like it longer, but it's nice to have suited. Like I have mine cut, so it's almost perfectly to my wrist. And another thing I just want to quickly mention is, as a triathlete myself, and someone who's ultra competitive, and I really like data, there's devices you can utilize, and they're going to be able to track your distances, your stroke rate, your cadence, and all that while you're in the open water. So what I have here is a Polar H10 heart rate monitor, It's completely waterproof, and I'll wear this underneath the wetsuit, and that'll give me heart rate data to my watch. Because normally you wear this on your wrist, and you'll get wrist-based heart rate, but as you'll see when I put all this equipment on, you're going to wear this over top of that wetsuit cuff, and that way you can actually see it instead of having it underneath. But it's really nice because you'll get your distance, you get your time, so if you're training, or even if you're just trying to monitor an athlete, you can have all their data right there for you. So if someone needs to pick up their stroke rate, if their stroke rate's down really low, like they think they're swimming in a pool, they're too slow on their turnovers, you'll be able to get that data from devices like this. Like this one here is the Polar Vantage V, and it does really well to track everything for multi-sport. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much how you put on your wetsuit. So you want to start out with the actual wetsuit itself. You want to get your legs in. You want to make sure you're pulling up all the padding and you're slowly inching it up. You really don't want to get your nails on it because, like I said, you might end up hitching it, cutting your neoprene. And these are pretty expensive suits, so you don't want to be ripping these up and having to repair them all the time. And once you get your suit up halfway, keep inching it up, pull it all the way up. You saw I kind of had some technical difficulties there when I pulled up my suit past my shoulders because I didn't inch up my suit up my arm. So if I had to inch my suit up the arm, it would have been very easy to grab that strap, pull it up, and have it connected. But eventually, I got it set up, and it's all the way up, and it fits good. I'm a little loose in the belly on this one, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Might be another investment needed to be made. But then once you have your suit on, you put your boots on if it's cold. You can take your gloves, throw those on, and then you want to put your wearables on if you have them. Throw that on. Make sure you put your heart rate strap on before you have your wetsuit on, and then you can swim cap, all that jazz, and you're pretty much ready to go. So lake and pond conditions is something you need to consider when you're heading out on the water. Today you can kind of see there's a little tiny bit of a current moving from west to east on the pond today. The winds actually did pick up. They're about 14, 15 kilometers an hour right now. The ambient air temperature is 15 degrees, but these are things you kind of need to consider, because if you're going out on a really cold day and the water temperature might be fine, but you could end up out there in this cold air temperature, and then when you get out of the water, then you have issues with hypothermia and things like that. But it's really important to check out your conditions and know them before you go, and don't just head in the water and hope for the best afterwards, because then you might end up in a bit of an issue after. Another thing to touch on is sometimes you're going to be swimming in groups. That means that you're going to be having extra, which is another thing that differentiates it from being in a pool. Because you're going to have water splashing in your face, you're going to have feet, arms, legs dangling everywhere. So you need to know where to be. So an appropriate position to be when you're swimming behind in a group is being just off to the right or left. And you want to be your arms, when you go on full stroke, you want to be grabbing just next to their feet. So you're staying on their feet and you're staying in their streamline so everyone can swim at the same pace. And you can kind of take groups with whoever's leading the charge and breaking the water. As you can see here, we have our buoy attached. And as I was explaining earlier, it blows up, as you can quite obviously see. And what you'll do, this will end up right behind you, right in the back, and you'll be swimming along and you won't even really notice it. It'll hit you in the hamstrings a few times, so you'll see it's there. And when you need a break, it'll float up to the top and you can just simply lean on it like this, and then you're out of the water. This is one of the greatest safety tools I think that there can be for open water swimming. And if you're not using one of these, I don't care how elite you are of a swimmer, this is something that you should be using. It's just safety first, and if it means wearing a belt with an orange thing attached to it, you should absolutely be doing that. So in this video too, we're also going to go over just some basic technique for freestyle open water swimming. Not very many people are out doing the butterfly and breaststroke in the open water. It's not the most efficient, and it's not going to get you any speed titles. But one of the main things you're doing when you're doing a front crawl in the open water is you need to get that hand entry. It needs to be smooth entry. You need to get a big elbow catch. Scoop as much water as you can. A very good way of looking at it is you kind of want to move your arms and pull the water in the same way that you would push yourself outside of a pool. So you're hanging up against the pool edge, you're trying to get yourself out. What's the most effective way to get you out of that pool? That way you're engaging your lat muscles, like the bigger muscles in your back, and you're going to propel the water a lot better. So now that we're out here in the water, before I start swimming, I like to get over the initial shock of the water, because I'm telling you right now, there's going to be some times when you're in the open water and it is not going to be very warm, and now is one of those times. So you want to get in there, you want to let the water get down into your wetsuit, you want to let your body temperature start heating up the water inside, and then in a couple of minutes you're going to be kind of acclimatized. Now there are some people who like to jump right in. I'm not one of those people, and those people are crazy. But it's kind of nice and refreshing to be out, and you're also in nature, so that's kind of... So one thing that's really good to do too is to just practice floating, because you could end up in a situation where you're not feeling the greatest and you just need to float. So right now I'm here, my boy's on my neck, we're doing good, the toes are down there, they're out of the water, so we're just floating here and trying to acclimatize slowly. So another thing that is a little bit different for swimming is how you breathe, and it's pretty natural to just breathe in and out casually, because we're humans and we're designed that way. When you're in the water, you want to be timing your breath, so you need to be more deliberate about it. When you breathe to the side, you're sucking in a bit of air, and then as soon as you get your head back in the water, you want to be pushing bubbles out of your nose and your mouth, so you don't become hypoxic in the water. And that's going to be really effective for you to be able to swim for longer distances and things like that. So I'll kind of try to give you a little example. I was supposed to have a kayaker with me here today, but it is too cold for them. So here. So the breathing part's incredibly important, because it's very, very easy to become hypoxic, especially if you're nervous. That's your first time swimming. And if the temperature of the water is kind of overwhelming. So as long as you're in the water, and the more you can relax, truly the better you will be as a swimmer, whether that's in a pool or else. So another thing that we must do when we're swimming in open water is we've got a sight. So keep in mind that I'm doing this with one arm to try to hold this camera. So when you're sighting, you want to find an object in the distance, and you want to look at it every 4th or 5th stroke. So I'll try to give you an example here now. As you can see, you kind of got to pull your head up out of the water, find that little location you're aiming towards, and time it with your breath. So some of the places you can kind of go to and enjoy outdoor swimming on your own and with a group of friends is Healy's Pond or Sunshine Camp. That's the most popular place. There's buoys usually placed out so you can do some interval training, and you can time yourself, and also have somewhere to sight and look for progress in the water. Another place is Octagon Pond in Paradise. They also have buoys out. The only thing is it's a little bit choppier of water some of the times, and it's often pretty busy with like dragon boats and sailboats and stuff like that. Whereas I find Healy's Pond, you're usually pretty good to go to get out there, and you'll be the only one in the water other than the people in your group. And last but not least, there's something that happens very frequently is chafing. So when you're putting on your wetsuit there, you can see this little area right here. Outside the video, I put on some moisturizer and I put on some lubricant on my neck and on this wetsuit, and I don't know if you can really tell or not, but there is some chafing even despite that. So that's something that you're going to have to look to work on your own, and hopefully you can negate those impacts. There's lots of different balms and stuff like that you can purchase online at places like Mountain Equipment Co-op, or even tryboutique.ca.